As a society, we actually might be genuinely cooked. The average car repair has now hit $838, and that's just for routine or moderate level work. For some of you gooners, the cost of fixing your car is no issue, but for the majority of us spending $300 to $900, that isn't necessarily a bargain in this economy. And to my point, is that us car guys as a society probably aren't going into a shop to get an oil change or brake pad replacement, and depending on your maintenance or skill level, there's probably a lot more you can do. However, there are a few issues that some of us just don't have the time to fix, or would just make more of an issue if we tried it, especially if it's just a beater. But if we're talking about more complex maintenance, on average, complex car maintenance, like I'm talking like transmission repair or like suspension overhaul, typically cost between $500 to $2,000. And if we're going to be honest, I think that's a little generous, especially for some repair bills that I've seen lately. Regardless of what you think is cheap or expensive for a car bill, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, vehicle repair and maintenance costs have climbed in a total of a staggering 33% since 2021. This information genuinely makes me want to leave my car running in a sketchy neighborhood and just hopefully someone solves my issue for me. Like, why do we have to worry so much that my main transportation is going to break and not be able to fix it? Then we can't go to work to make money to fix it. Let me remind you, the median emergency savings for Americans is $500, with about 1/3 to nearly half of all adults unable to cover an expense from $400 to $1,000 using cash reserves. This genuinely scares me as a society, and this is why we're probably going to talk about it today. Let me know, what was the last repair bill you had and that made you want to commit insurance fraud? Welcome to the auto repair epidemic. Just grab a snack and just feel free to listen to me while you poop. So let me feed your orifice with this information. A new car sheds about 20 to 30% of its value in its first year, and roughly 40 to 50% by the end of its fifth year, and then 8 to 12% every year after that. Holy if you were to buy a $40,000 car in the first year and it's worth $32,000, then 5 years later, $20,000, then by year 8, $15,500, and most likely you're not even close to paying it off. Obviously, these numbers are highly dependent on how well you are as a driver and brand and model of the car and your credit score and everything. You might be asking me, Torque, how does that have anything to do with the fact of changing my $800 sensor? Well, a lot, because if you think about it, if you're in year 6 of owning that car, the depreciation and the ridiculous interest rates of your 72-month loan, and you still owe the bank $22,000, but the car is only worth $15,000 to $16,000, your car is becoming worth less every single day while simultaneously becoming more expensive to keep alive. I respect everyone that has a beater that's absolutely hanging on the edge of glory right now, because you survived the predatory dealerships that will say, hey there chap, don't sink that $3,000 into that beater, let us roll you into debt into a brand new 2026 model. Wow man, what a deal. And if you fell for this one, you're the one who signed the paper. Chapter 2, the difficulty of new cars. The car industry themselves thought they were probably going to get away in this video and we were just going to talk about mechanics. Cars have become significantly harder to work on than they used to be, and I don't think that's entirely by accident. Car companies don't exactly want you fixing your own issues, because every time that you have to bring your car to the dealership, somebody's making money, and unfortunately it's probably not you. Now, before someone starts yapping in the comments, Torque, modern cars are safer, I realize that modern cars are safer. They're faster, they're more comfortable, they're more fuel efficient. I understand that. But holy hell, have they become complicated. And if you've worked on either more than one car in your whole entire life, you can absolutely tell. It isn't necessarily that the mechanical parts are harder to understand, it's just the computers and the electronics themselves. A lot of people can relate to this. Remember when replacing a headlight just meant replacing the headlight? Now you replace a headlight and the car wants to know who authorized the procedure. The amount of electronics packed into vehicles today are absolutely insane, and unfortunately, when those electronics fail, they absolutely fail, and they don't fail cheaply. You aren't replacing a $20 part anymore, you're replacing a whole $800 sensor. Quick story time, I had a GMC Envoy, and then it just started shutting off. I'm like, oh, that's weird, must be a computer. Brought it to a shop. Whole ECU was absolutely toast. That was like a $1,200 repair for a really old Envoy. I spent more in that Envoy than the Envoy was worth. And speaking of complicated repairs, we have to talk about EVs. Now, before people get mad at me, routine EV maintenance is generally considered cheaper than gas vehicles. I get that. No oil changes, fewer moving parts, less routine maintenance. I completely understand that argument. However, if an EV gets involved in a collision repair or has really bad electrical issues, watch out. The EV collision repair can range between roughly $5,700 to $6,200, and that's before your insurance company starts having their way with you. Then we have companies like Tesla that have very specific repair procedures and requirements that can make repairs even more complicated. They will get mad at you if you try to fix your own car. And that creates another whole problem, because somebody actually has to fix all this stuff, and unfortunately, we're running out of people to do it. Chapter 3, the mechanic shortage. Now, unfortunately, all this creates another issue, because if cars are becoming more complicated, you need to be more qualified to fix them. And before somebody comments, well, my Uncle Bob fixes everything in his driveway, I'm not talking about Uncle Bob. I'm talking about qualified technicians. Because now fewer and fewer young people are entering the automotive trade than ever before. And honestly, can you even blame them? Imagine graduating high school and being told, congratulations, now you spend $10,000 on tools. And that's not even an exaggeration. Many entry-level technicians are expected to buy their own tools, toolboxes, and almost any other equipment they might need. Meanwhile, every year of cars have become more complicated. And after all that, a lot of technicians are still underpaid by the flagged hour system. Now, for those who don't know what it is, let's just say a repair is listed as a 2-hour job. The technician gets paid for those 2 hours. Simple enough, right? If it turns into like a 2-hour to a 4-hour nightmare, the technician still gets only paid for 2 hours. Imagine if your boss walked up to you and said, hey buddy, today's shift is 8 hours. Then after 8 hours, he handed you a paycheck for 4. Now, not every company works like this, but I'm just giving you an example. There is an age problem. Nearly half of all automotive service technicians are over the age of 45, which means many people currently are keeping America's vehicles alive while approaching retirement, and they are also leaving faster than vocational schools can replace them. This is a huge problem because demand isn't slowing down. Americans are keeping vehicles longer than ever, repair costs are rising, cars are becoming more complicated, and there are fewer qualified people available to fix them.
Cars are just way too complicated to work on these days. It takes 10 years for the average apprentice to catch up to an automotive technician. 2, the cost of tools is just unbelievable. In this little drawer here, you're probably looking over about $7,000. It's not including everything else I have. So I got like $30,000 invested in tools and education. And the third and most important thing is the wages are garbage. For the amount of money we have to invest.
It's honestly a perfect storm. And when demand for the fixing goes up while the supply of mechanics goes down, well, the price rises. That's economics 101 there for you. The wait times are longer, the labor rates are higher, and shops become backed up. And eventually the customer gets the bill, which is exactly where we are today. So unfortunately, as a society, we are struggling to keep up with the demand. And you know what makes that even worse? Finding a shop that you can actually trust. If you're liking this video, join the tour crew and then lightly grasp that like button so I can do this full time. Chapter 4, being honest about the work. You know what really sauces my meatball? Finding a reputable shop, because getting your car repaired is one thing, actually trusting the person repairing it is another. And unfortunately, here are some examples.
It's at a local repair shop with thousands of dollars worth of parts and labor, but what really happened under that hood?
When it broke down, this Army retiree paid J. Acosta Auto Repair in Tampa more than $3,000 to rebuild the transmission and replace the radiator. David says the truck died on the road minutes after he left the shop. We questioned the repairs after finding state records detailing half a dozen other repair-related complaints against Jay Acosta since 2012.
Well, the transmission hasn't been rebuilt and the radiator hasn't been replaced.
I know there are thousands of honest mechanics out there. Some of you are absolute units of car knowledge and could fix probably anything you wanted to. Some of you have probably saved people thousands of dollars by just being honest. This chapter is not about you. This chapter is about those slimy the one that gives everybody else a bad reputation. And let me remind you, this isn't some new problem. This has been a problem happening since probably the second car was ever built. The first mechanic probably looked at a guy in 1912 and said, "Hey, yeah, your horse conversion module is completely shot." The problem is that cars are so complicated now that the average car person has absolutely no clue whether they're actually getting ripped off. Most people don't know what a control arm is. Most people don't know what a wheel bearing does. Most people don't know whether the repair should cost $300 or $3,000. They're completely dependent on trusting the shop. And trust is expensive when your transportation is on the line. Because if your refrigerator breaks, that blows. If your television breaks, that really blows. If your PlayStation breaks, that blows even harder. But if your car breaks, now you might not get to work. Now you might miss some income. Now you might not be able to pay rent. Transportation isn't really optional anymore, especially in America. So when somebody is told, "Hey buddy, your car needs a $4,000 worth of repairs," most people don't have the knowledge to challenge it. And now, to be fair, not every expensive repair is a scam. This is another thing that drives me crazy.
This is why nobody wants to work on cars for a living anymore. Now usually you just fix a car, you call a customer up and you get paid. Well, it doesn't always work like that. So here we got a 2013 Nissan Altima. It came here for a transmission issue and the customer approved the repair quote that we gave her. So we went ahead and put a brand new transmission from Nissan in it, which is not easy. You have to remove the whole subframe and a lot of other things to get it in and out. Not to mention, you got to tow it to Nissan to get programmed after you install it. So we did everything right. We got it programmed, we installed it correctly, and got the car to drive beautifully. The only problem was she never came to pick it up or pay for it. So then I had to put a mechanic storage lien on this vehicle. And now we're trying to sell it just to get the money back for the transmission.
People will get quoted for $2,500 for a legitimate repair and immediately assume, "Oh, this shop is overcharging." Well, not exactly, Carol. Sometimes repairs are legitimately expensive. And the issue is that consumers have no idea who to trust. And when you combine rising repair costs, increasing vehicle complexity, and customers who don't understand what they're paying for, you create the perfect environment for shady business. Which unfortunately, it leaves a lot of people terrified every single time they drop their keys off. But here's the crazy part. Even if you find an honest mechanic, even if they do great work, or even if they charge a fair price, we're still running into another problem because the vehicles we're driving today are being pushed further than ever before, and that's leading us into high mileage. Chapter 5, the high mileage. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Torque, cars are even more reliable than ever. And honestly, yeah, you're right. Modern cars absolutely can last longer than they used to. It is really not uncommon anymore to see vehicles with 200,000 miles, 250, even 300,000. Back in the day, if someone told you their car had 200,000 miles on it, you immediately started preparing for a funeral speech. Nowadays, people post pictures of their Toyota hitting 300,000 miles, and the comment section acts like they just landed on the moon. And honestly, that's pretty great. I honestly love seeing high mileage vehicles survive. But there is something people don't talk about. Just because a car can reach 300,000 miles didn't mean getting there was cheap. And unlike older vehicles, modern cars have significantly more things that can fail. And you're not just maintaining engines anymore, you're maintaining rolling computer networks. Back then you could just smack a wrench on a car and then problem solve. Today cars develop weird noises and then suddenly it needs a software update. And because new cars are so expensive, people are keeping their current vehicles longer than ever. Which makes complete sense. Have you seen the price of new vehicles lately? So naturally, people are trying to squeeze every single last mile out of what they already own. Do I keep fixing this thing, or do I become somebody else's problem? This is literally a great question that a bunch of people ask because they simply can't keep up with the cost. And that's what genuinely honestly concerns me, because when you combine vehicles depreciating, repairs becoming more expensive, cars becoming more complicated, a shortage of technicians, difficulty finding trustworthy shops, and Americans keeping vehicles longer than ever, you get an auto repair epidemic. Because for millions of Americans, one major repair bill isn't really an inconvenience anymore, it's an honest emergency. Transportation really shouldn't be a luxury, it just shouldn't. But more people are finding out ways to keeping their car alive, it's just becoming a full-time side quest. Chapter 7, Insurance. Here is something that really oils my broil. You're told insurance is supposed to be a safety net, and that's the whole pitch. You pay every month, no matter what. Rain or shine, good or bad, driving. You could go years without ever using it. And in theory, that's fine because the idea is simple. If something bad happens, you're covered, right? But tell me why, the second you actually need insurance, the deductible out of pocket, the premiums are going up, rates increasing for years, and sometimes they don't even cover anything they actually thought they would. So now you're sitting here thinking, wait a second. I pay every single month for years. I finally need you, and I'm still paying most of it myself? And at that point, you're asking the most uncomfortable question. What exactly am I paying for, and what am I insured against? Because honestly, it starts to feel like, hey, we've got you if something happens, and more like, hey, we'll help you pay for it, maybe, depending on the situation, and installments, maybe after we raise your price. And the worst part is how automatic it is. You don't even really have a choice. If you want to drive legally, you have to pay for it, period. So it becomes one of those inevitable costs. It's like paying for a parachute every month, and then when you actually jump, someone tells you the parachute only covers for that one landing, and maybe the landing, and the rest of it depends on your deductible. And to make it even more frustrating, the cost of insurance has been climbing right alongside everything else that we've talked about. So insurance companies aren't even just reacting to accidents anymore, they're just pricing in reality to even a smaller accident and can turn it into a massive bill. Which means you're paying more every single year, not even necessarily needing it, but just because the system around driving is getting more expensive, and it's just not fair. And that's when you just really realize insurance is just legal fraud. Thank you guys for watching so much. We will see you in the next one on Torque Savvy. Peace.